Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert. You're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Christopher Rausch. Christopher Rausch is debatably the world's most effective and impactful, unstoppable, no excuses coach, speaker, workshop facilitator, retreat leader, whose life apprenticeship of the victim to the victor is nothing short of miraculous and surely inspiring. Today, as an international keynote speaker, Rausch captivates and enthralls audiences with his story and then empowers them to accept what life has presented, embrace change, and take action, personally and professionally. His commitment and credibility are indisputable as he so obviously lives his message. People leave awe-inspired and motivated to take action regardless of perceived obstacles. Rausch shares his unforgettable story and proven strategies through his proprietary education entitled KICKASS Guide to Life as a complete guide to living and leading the best kick-ass life possible. Imagine the impact of his wisdom on your organization as he compassionately guides each person through the journey of self-transformation. Christopher holds a master's degree in organizational management and has heavily invested into his own personal and professional development and turns to the principles that he studied, taught, and lived by for more than 3 decades to partner 21st industry leaders, teams, individuals to heighten levels of performance. Welcome to the podcast, Christopher.
Thank you, Dr. Kimberly. How are you?
I am great, and it's great to have you on the show. I love your guitars in the background there.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish I played them halfway as good as everybody else does. But yeah, no, I just love music and yeah, love music and guitars and everything else. But thank you for that warm introduction. I appreciate that. I need to shorten that up.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us in your own words about yourself, where you started out, how you got to be doing what you're doing today? Because you haven't always been doing this. You've had quite a journey.
Yes, I have. And thank you so much for having me on your show. I really, truly appreciate it. My story is one that most people don't believe. It's actually a book that I'm currently writing, but in a sense, essentially what it was is I am a former seventh grade homeless dropout who lived on in the back seat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 2 dogs from the period of 13 years old to 17 years old, in and out of streets, in and out of drugs, alcohol, violence, all sorts of different things. And ultimately had to get to a point in my life where I realized that I was going to get out of that predicament either in jail or in a casket or by my own accord to take responsibility for my life. And up until that point, my mom had various psychological disorders, various chemical dependencies, and she was not, let's say, a very good role model for me. And so throughout my life, aside from having to drop out in the seventh grade to help her take care of her animals and be homeless, I endured lots of different physical and mental abuse, spiritual abuse in myself. And through the process of being bullied by her and everybody on my block and in school, I ultimately came to that spot when I was 17 years old. And it all mounted in the fact that everything that in my life was, I felt like everything was happening to me. And I didn't know how to respond to that. I didn't know I was reacting to that with chemical substances and everything else and trying to commit suicide twice. Unfortunately, I sucked at it. All to get to the point in my life where I really didn't know what I was doing, and I really didn't have any hope. I just started becoming complacent. I've always been a dreamer, but when the fact of the matter came to be, I came back to this motel we were staying at. It was a very crummy, sleazy, dirty, icky motel here in California. And I came walking back in. I have no problem with anybody. I mean, I grew up in Inglewood. I was the only white kid in a black neighborhood. All my friends are mixed races. I don't care what color you are, what party you are, what sexual orientation. I'm like that guy. I just love everybody. Let's have the conversation and learn how to understand each other better. And I walk back in, and this guy says, "Hey, man, you want to buy a carton of Reds?" Well, I smoked cigarettes back in that time, and I did not smoke Marlboro Reds, which, stereotypically white guys smoke. White guys smoke Marlboro Reds. And I came walking in, I had long hair and a leather jacket. I came walking back into the parking lot coming from somewhere. And this black guy walked up to me and he goes, "Hey man, you want to buy these?" And I said, "No, no, no, man." I said, "I'm cool." I said, "I appreciate it though." I said, "I smoke menthols." And he stopped me and he goes, "What do you mean you smoke menthols?" And I said, "Actually, I do." And he kind of looked at me like I was picking on him because most of my black friends smoked menthols. They smoked Newports, or they smoked Benson and Hedges, or they smoked Cools. And I hung around my black friends, and I wound up finding out that if I smoked menthols, none of my other friends would bum cigarettes off of me. So that's why I switched cigarettes, because I was broke, and that's what you do. And so I went to go pull the cigarettes out of my back pocket, being cool. I was like, "Yeah, man, this," and I went to go pull it out of my pocket, and I wound up having a gun put to my forehead. And the gist of that was he thought I was being racist and stereotyping him and making fun of him, and thought I was going to pull a blade or pull a gun out and mess with him. And that was definitely not my intention. But when that gun went to my forehead out there in the parking lot, nobody really cared. And I was just sitting there. I'm like, dude, I don't give a F what color your skin is. I don't give any, dude, I don't smoke those. If you had a carton of Cools for $5, game on. Let's get this over with. And he's like, no, man, I think you're just telling me this now. And da, 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 and all you and just starts going off on me. And so I just snapped. And at that point in my life, I was like, I'm done. I think I just really told the universe, I'm done. If we're going, let's go. And I yelled at him. I said, if you're going to pull the effing trigger, pull the effing trigger. And I literally closed my eyes and thought that was going to be it. I thought he's going to cap me and that's going to be it. And all these people are going to be like, oh, okay, another one's dead. But fortunately, my friend Will came running up. He's like, no. Him and his moms are cool. They're cool. They're cool, man. They feed us. They give us food. Da, 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 da. And I wound up getting to know the guy, and he was cool, and he apologized. But after that point, I really sat down. And I was like, death, jail, or my own accord, and wound up making the decision to get out of there. And my life changed from that point forward.
Wow. So where does one start when you're getting out of there?
You have to start with pain. I think that Tony Robbins talks about the fact that we do things for two reasons: to avoid pain or to gain pleasure. And at that point, the pain became so great that there was no other choice than for me to act. So I had hit bottom. I had hit rock bottom. And so in doing that, the universe has a way of opening things up. And I truly believe this now. Back when I was 17 years old, I wouldn't have believed any of this, the fluffy stuff. But I went to work. There was a buddy of mine that lived in the same motel, and we did telemarketing out of this guy's apartment in Huntington Beach, which sounds creepy, but it was roofing contractor appointments. And so he and I went to work the next day, or a couple of days. It wasn't too far after. It was probably maybe a week or so. We went to work, and we walk into his apartment, and he's like, "Hey guys," and he was a super cool guy. And he goes, "I got good news and bad news." And I said, "Well, I've had enough bad news to last a lifetime. What's the good news?" And he says, "Well, I know you guys are trying to get out of that motel, and you've been homeless and da da da." He goes, "I want to leave you my apartment and my deposit and everything, so you guys can move out of that motel." And we were like, "Okay, that's cool, but what's the bad news?" And he's like, "Well, I'm moving the operations to Texas." And we're like, "Oh man!" And we made pretty good money. It was like $13 an hour back in 1987 or 1988. But we both looked at each other like, we could get out of that motel. We get your brother, and we got excited. And it was like, wow. And I got excited. I'm like, this could be a possibility. This could be our road out. My mom won the lottery while we were in the motel, and she still didn't get us out of the motel because of her cats. So we go back to the motel, and I'm thinking, after everything I've been through, I was working 3 jobs to help support her, codependency, all that good stuff. And I was just a little kid. And I went back and said, "Mom, I could do this. I could do this. Me and Robert could do this. And I'm not going to leave you, but I just got to get out of this place." And for once in my life, Kimberly, I thought that she would say, "You know what? I've screwed you up. I've done all these different things. I never knew my biological father. My sister left when I was 9, all these different abandonment issues." I thought that she would finally say, "You know what?" And I was always expecting her to be a mom. And I thought she'd say, "You know what? You need to go. You need this." I'm spinning my wheels. No. She called me every name in the book and couldn't believe it and blah, blah, blah. And I sat on the steps of that motel that night, and I looked at the drugs and the prostitution and the cops and everything. It was just like a made for TV movie. And I just decided, I said, I got to go. And so I told her, I said, "Mom, I'm going to leave you here, but I'm not going to leave you." And so we moved into the apartment, and I still went back there every night and helped her and everything. But amazingly, she wound up getting stronger because nobody was there holding her hand anymore. But really, you have to find your why. You have to really put yourself first. And I think that's a lot of the problems that's going on with society today is people don't love themselves. People are trying to find possessions and short-term gratifications to fill emptiness because they don't love themselves, because they weren't taught how to love themselves. The conditioning process we go through from 0 to 5 or 0 to 7, depending on what studies you look at, really is what the source is and the root cause, which I'm most passionate about, in what messes us up in life. So you have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. You have to take that risk and believe that it's all going to work out in your favor. And when you do that, it's amazing how the universe starts lining things up to support that.
Mhm. Yeah, and now you're not in that. You're actually very successful doing what you're doing. And I know that you also work with at-risk youth. Do you want to talk about that and what you're doing there?
Oh yes. No, geez, I'm so super passionate about that. Once I got out of the situation, once I got back and I got my GED, I met an amazing man through this girl I was dating. Wrong side of the tracks, totally. I had long hair, leather jacket, smoked cigarettes, dug through dumpsters when I was younger and all this other stuff. And they were kind of like the upper middle class, other side of the tracks. And I had to go meet her parents one night, and I was scared to death. I mean, I showed up at their house. I was like, oh my God, they're rich. Da, da, da. What did I? Oh my, they're going to look at me like, get out of here. You're a creep.
Mhm.
And this guy just poured into me. His name was Bill White. And he didn't look at me. He looked in me. And that was something I was not used to. I was harassed by the cops. I was harassed by most people by the way I looked or by the way I talked. And he was just like, oh, well, tell me about your story. And have you thought about going back to school? I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't go back to school. I'm 17, almost 18 years old now. No, there's no way. I wasn't doing so good in school back in the 7th grade. And he told me about the GED thing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go do the GED thing. And then he poured into me with that. So in realizing that you get around the right people and the right things happen, it became my first mission that I'm going to go back and I'm going to help kids like I was, make sure that they get through any storms that they have going on in their life, because you can do it. And that was like my first realization, is to take my trash and make it my treasure. And so soon after, I mean, not soon after, it was a while, probably when I started getting my bachelor's degree, I realized that, okay, possessions and money and all this other stuff were good, and safety and certainty were good, but I was missing something out of my life. And I remember that promise I made to myself. So I went down to the Corona Police Department here locally and said, do you have a mentoring program for kids that are in juvenile hall? And went through the process, the credentialing process, the background checks and everything, and became a mentor. And I was sold on it because this kid had no belief, no faith, no grown man ever believed in him. And I became that Bill White for this kid. And through that, I got started with the Olive Crest Children's Foundation and mentoring at-risk kids there. And it just got hooked. I got hooked on saying something and giving somebody positive reinforcement for what they can do, irrespective of what they've been told. And I just got hooked on it, and I've been doing it ever since. And that's what got me into actual coaching adults, because I realized, okay, where does this problem start? And if their kids are struggling with this, and if the kids turn into adults, then the adults must have these issues too. So let me just try to help and better the world as I better myself.
Exactly. And sometimes all it takes is someone else believing in us when we don't believe in ourselves.
Oh, massive, massive. I'm sure you experienced that in yourself too.
I do. There's certain people in my life that I'm just so happy that they're in my life because they support me. They encourage me when I get discouraged.
So
So,
massively important. The 5 people you're around the most. I mean, I tell people all the time, they're like, I'm unhappy, I'm not successful. I'm like, take a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle of it, a line across of it, put positive, negative, and the 5 people you're around, list their names. And are they positive or are they negative? Do they support you? Do they tell you your dreams are great and to go for them and push you and hold you accountable? Or do they tell you things are stupid? If they tell you things are stupid and don't do that and stay safe, and it's a misery loves company thing, you need to get new people. It's a matter of fact.
mhm. Yeah, it really is. And then now you have a radio show. And I know you said you're going to have Forbes Riley on tonight, so that will be awesome. And I know her, and she's wonderful. What is your show about?
Actually, I do 2 shows a week, and then I do another show every other week. I love helping people in broadcasting. So my personal show is called Raw and Unscripted with Christopher Rausch. And essentially that was born out of the desire to not so I've always been prepared. I've always been, okay, I have to succeed in this. I have to get validation. I have to get significance. I have to make this the best I possibly can. And that's what got me to where I was. But in realizing that I was doing that for other people and I was doing that for external reasons that really didn't support my ultimate legacy. So when I created Raw and Unscripted, it was like, I just want to be me. That's all I wanted in my life. I fought to get here. This is what I want to be. So essentially it's just me and a guest, and we're just talking raw and unscripted about what we could do to get out of our own way, the real truth, not the self-help fluffy BS that we often hear about, the direct conversations, the vulnerability, but most importantly, creating a safe space for people to engage with us. So I usually do my show live, and in the comments, I invite people. They're called My Misfits for Life. So we're a crew, we're a family where there's a place we can gather every week, and they can ask me questions either live there afterwards, and just a place that we can have a support group in a way to help one another and just have fun doing it, and just meeting congruent people who are, not salesy or anything, but just really meeting the people that we need the world to be right now. I love doing that. Then my show tonight is called The Unfiltered Experience. It was a transition with something that I did with a buddy of mine during COVID. We just started doing lives just to help people just to come out and just like when the 6-week shutdown came down, we went live every Friday night. We called it Friday Night Live. We're like, all right, guys, you know, we're going to pump you up. We're going to talk about good stuff. We're going to talk about how to, you know, keep your mindset going during this crazy time. And we did that for all last year. And then we're like, well, what do we do with this? It's not Friday Night Live. I mean, that's kind of a spoof on Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
So we talked about it again and what we wanted, what our message was. And again, it came out the unfiltered experience of just being unfiltered, being okay with being who you are, zits and all, warts and all, whatever it might be. And having again guests on there that are sharing their brilliance and their light, and again a safe community where everybody can be and engage. And the reason why I do it with Scott is we say the same things, but the beautiful thing is he incorporates a lot of source and energy and stuff that I did not understand before, but which I understand now. So we say the same things. I say things more directly and he says it a different way. So depending on who our audience is that are listening, or if they're hybrids, they can kind of get the same message in a different way. And people absolutely love that. They're like, you guys and your chemistry is just off the hook. So yeah, I love doing it. I just love helping people and inspiring people.
Mhm. So what you're really talking about is authenticity, being yourself, coming out as yourself. So, a lot of people say we should dress a certain way, we should look a certain way, we should live in a certain house or do a certain thing, you should go to the gym every morning, or what's wrong with you? So, how do we come out as our authentic selves, and how important is that to do that and actually feeling good and feeling happy?
That is a great question. How important is it? Life or death, really. I mean, it's the difference between what I term with my clients, living versus existing. So many people are living, are existing in life. They're existing. They're playing the someday game. Oh, someday when the kids, someday when this, someday when I have this, I hope, wish, and pray. And they sit there and their life literally passes them by. And I was not one of those people, but I did not know how important it was in the aspect of time to really be who we are. You know, when you think about the conditioning process, again, when we're kids, we're told to be certain things. You better be the person that pays attention and don't talk back. You better be the person, you better clean your room. You better be this, da, da, da. We're told what to be. And so then we go, and if we are that thing, that person, then we get validation. Oh, good job, Chris. You're who I want you to be.
Mhm.
But if we don't, what's wrong with you? That's the message we hear. So we spend our life doing that, and we don't necessarily find who it is that we are. And through the process of me realizing what's most important is that self-love, number one, the recognition that we're all unique in individual uh, mirrors for each other, right? And being who we need to be in our authenticity is so important, because that's where the connections happen. Everything else is surface level. Everything else is BS. You go to work. Hi, how was your weekend? We don't care. We don't listen. We say it. But when you're authentic and you really gel with somebody, then you're going to sit there. Hey, how was your weekend? Come here. No, seriously. I want to hear about it. You connect and you find your brilliance, and you stop worrying. So many people are worrying about what other people think.
Mhm.
When you are in your own space and you're owning your own space, and I'm not telling you it's easy, I'm telling you it's definitely worth it. It's amazing, because again, everything starts opening up, and the people you meet. I have Forbes Riley coming on my show tonight. People are dying to get 3 words with her, and I'm like, I'm just me. I'm not scoping her out. I'm not asking anything. I'm just like, hey, you want to come on my show? Let's talk.
Mhm.
I just want to riff. That wouldn't happen if I was being somebody else.
Mhm.
So that's how important it is. And I've seen people get to their end stage of life. This is why on my social media posts, it always says no regrets, because I've determined in my life, I'm like, what is that hinge point that's going to keep me grinding? That's going to keep me going, keep me living on purpose. I don't want any regrets. And now I've learned, I'm going to be 52 in a couple of weeks. Time goes by like that. Time goes by like that. And you start hitting these numbers and you're like, well, I feel good. I still look good. Average life expectancy, 78. I got 20 years left. I got 27 summers left of my life. That's the grind that I keep working on, and I give to people, because at the end of the day, you look at the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. The number one regret is that we didn't live the life that we wanted to live. We lived the life that we thought we were supposed to live. That's paraphrasing, but how miserable is that to get to the end of your days? And I've talked to people face to face in old folks homes. I'm like, what I wish I would have taken a chance. I wish I would have taken more risks. I wish I'd have just been me. I was so worried about what my boss thought for 20 years. And then he just up and died, and his thoughts were meaningless. 20 years of my life I spent wondering what he thought of me. I never knew what he thought of me. Then he dies and it's gone. It's like, And I just kept seeing the same pattern over and over again. Be you, go after what makes you happy, find the people in your tribe, and man, the doors open up. It's crazy. And so now what I do is I take people who are comfortably miserable, existing in that life. Everything's good. Like I was corporate career, make, six figures, nice office, easy, in my zone of excellence, not my zone of genius. And I was comfortably miserable. And I was doing the coaching on the side and the speaking on the side. I was juggling everything. And then finally just had to make the decision that this is what is my life is about. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump. And for your viewers out there and for yourself, you've never seen it, Steve Harvey has a video out there, the comedian talk show host, called Jump. It's on YouTube. It's less than 2 minutes long. I've watched it probably thousands of times by now. I recommend it all the time. It's less than 2 minutes, but he succinctly tells you in less than 2 minutes what life is about. And you have to jump. If you don't jump, yeah. So I jump. I'm authentic and I love it. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it.
Yeah. Well, thanks. That is awesome what you're describing. So
Thank you.
a lot of things happened in your childhood, and it's my understanding that so much of what we do or the filters we have come from childhood. That inner critic, that whatever your mom said or the teacher said or whatever, we have all that. We don't realize it's running in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you done over the years to just help yourself kind of silence that critic and be you?
Another great question. I love this. I love this. What have I done? One of the first things that I really did that helped me the most was I was always angry with my mom. I was always frustrated with her. I'm like, you're a grown ass woman. You should be taking care of me. You shouldn't have all these cats. You shouldn't be trying to play drug dealer, informant, and cop at the same time. She did. I mean, I could tell you stories. I'm writing the book. But I ultimately got to a point where, okay, she's not changing. She is not going to change. I went and saw a therapist, and I've loved psychology. And so I go talk to him mostly just to kind of just riff and just see what's going on. And it was brilliant because she came back to me and she said, describe your mom to me. And I said, okay. And I did. And she goes, your mom. And I said, the interesting part, my mom said she was always 4 years old. Like when I became, she goes, I'm four. And I'm like, Mom. And she loved stuffed animals. She loved going to Disneyland. She loved cats. She loved cats more than people. And I never got it. And then this therapist, I described how she is. And she goes, you're expecting your mom to be a mom, right? And I said, duh. And she goes, stop expecting that. She goes, your mom is in between a little kid and a teenager. Your mom is psychologically, as much as she's a grown woman, as much as she's intelligent. I mean, literally, she could talk to doctors and people would ask her where she went to medical school. And all she did was read books. That's all she did. So she was brilliant that way. You're expecting your mom to be this certain way, and that's just not going to happen, Chris. Your mom is psychologically stuck in this period of her life. So you have two choices. You can keep expecting her to be your mom, or you could try to learn to understand where she's coming from. And that was like, bing. And right around the same time, I think it was before I read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in there, he said something that was very instrumental in my relationships, was to seek first to understand, then to be understood. And before that, I was taught, he who commands the conversation is right. That's what my mom always taught me. And so I went back to her and I was like, okay, how do I understand her better? And so I asked her about her childhood. And she told me about it, how her mother, my grandmother, held her hands over the flames of the stove because she accidentally locked the keys in the house, how she got beat, da 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 da. But yet her mom would give her the best meals and make her study her classes because she wanted the best for her. So it was really kind of a weird situation. And then it hit me. And then she says, and then of course, grandma and grandpa divorced. And I said, how old were you? Guess how old she was? 4. And I'm like, oh. And I said, how did that make you feel? She goes, well, it was really upsetting because, I was stuck with my mom and she was mean and everything. And my father, grandpa didn't really want anything to do with us except for holidays. And so she grew up missing that fatherly influence at an integral point in her life. And so what did she do? She turned to promiscuity. She was brilliant, but she didn't know how. She didn't have the tools or the resources to figure it out. So then, because she was so brilliant, she started reading all these textbooks and all these books about psychology and multiple personality disorders. She wound up checking herself into an insane asylum, everything else. It was just nuts. But when I just took the step back and I said, you know what? I have the wrong expectation for somebody who doesn't have the capability to fulfill that. And I've never communicated my expectation to her in that way. So I was partly at fault in that as well. So once I started realizing that, and once I started accepting, acknowledging, had I not gone through those experiences, and this is where I came to the realization that life happens for you, not to you. Had I not gone through those experiences in life, when I had this epiphany in my early 30s or late 20s, I would not be where I'm at today. So I looked at all those situations. I don't want to go back through them. No. I looked at all those situations. I'm like, I am better today because of those situations, because they happen. And then I look at conversely, because I've been interviewed so many times, people would say, don't you wish you had a normal childhood? Why did anybody not want to take you? And, why were you in the car? And I'm like, no, my mom said I could go live with my grandfather. I could have gone different places. I had some lady that was willing to foster me when I was later on, which was kind of weird. Another story. So many stories. And, it just came to me that we don't understand what we don't know. And in that part, I forgave her. It was challenging, but it relieved a lot of the stress on me of taking it personal. Like she just didn't know, and she screwed herself up in her brain and everything else. And I never deserted her. Everybody else deserted her. I felt like I was the responsible person in her life, and we were partners up until the day she passed. I held her hand as she took her last breath, and I was so thankful I was there. It completed the journey, and from that point on, I always look at things as chapters in your life, and when one chapter ends, you bless it and you say thank you. Thank you. That was a chapter. Okay, the hero's journey. We all love it. We all watch the movies, the rise and the fall, and then it ends all happily and everything's good. So that, in answer to your question, in the long route, is I sought first to understand, and then to take myself out of it, because it wasn't really about me. It was about her.
Mhm. Thank you. So when you're talking to kids who are at risk, and we talk about the 5 people that you are around is the 5 most important people, how do you teach them to actually attract that person? Because sometimes when you're here in this space, this understanding, you don't even know who it is you need to attract, or you don't know how to get into that space to attract who you need in your life.
So the question is, how do I teach kids to be able to attract that in their life?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's first of all, I teach them to act as if, right? So if you want to attract fellow gangbangers, then be a gangbanger. If you want to attract people who are intelligent, then you need to surround yourself in those places, and go to where those people hang out. But personally, they have to I get them to re-identify who they are, because up until that point, like I said before, they've been told who they are, and they're confused. They're mixed up. I went to this gang and I'm accepted and I'm loved and people care about me. So they get the wrong relation in their brain. So like, okay, I'm not getting it here at home or wherever, and the gang thing's not working. Where do I belong? And that's the first part, because they just feel lonely, they feel abandoned, they feel like, okay, at least this is something. These people care about me. They'll make sure I get fed or something like that. I got to go do stupid things, but at least I'm protected and I have a family. So just making them realize that slowly, it never happens overnight, but slowly, by the decisions they make, hey, maybe do a little bit less drugs. Hey, maybe do a less drink. Maybe start reading some books. Maybe start looking at personal development. And with the internet now and Google and YouTube, I'm easy to tell them, like, all you have to do, just spend an hour a day, maybe 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever it might be. Watch some inspirational videos. I will give you a list. If you're a reader, I will give you 3 books. You read the books, I promise you your perspective will change. And in some situation, man, that ain't cool. That ain't gonna work. That ain't, no. And sometimes I go back to the pain versus pleasure principle. And I sit there and say, you know what? I see you're pretty set in your ways. Good luck with that. Let me know how that works out for you. And I'm not, because they're expecting me to try to convince them. I'm not going to try to convince you that you should be living for yourself, but I can guarantee you, one day in your life, you're going to remember me, and you're going to remember me. So you can either listen now or figure it out later when it's too late. That's your choice. And so I have that tough love. I have that. I'm not afraid to speak my truth and say, hey, listen, if you want to keep, doing that to yourself, then good luck. But meanwhile, I'm going to focus on this one kid out of these 30 that's ready to get out of this situation and go make the world a better place. So it just really starts re-identifying themselves and their purpose. And that is such a huge challenge. And all of us in this world today really need to band together and rediscover what we should be doing in our schools or adjuncts to our schools to really prepare these kids for life. I mean, we teach them algebra and all this other stuff, but we never teach them how to handle their emotions. We don't teach them about identity. We don't teach them about, just life, and we just we just push them through this process. We tell them, hey, listen, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, and then get married and have kids, buy the house, and then someday you can retire. Really? That's what you want me to do? Yeah, really? Okay. So Yeah, they just got to get around the right people and have that path. So we all have to do what we can to do to make that difference in our schools, and especially with our kids. It blows my mind when parents don't know what their kids are doing. I didn't know little Johnny was playing with guns in his room. I can't even use that language right now, but it blows my mind. So we all have to get involved and be part of the solution, not part of the problem, not keyboard warriors going, we have to get up and figure out who our city councilmen are, who our mayor is, and who the elected officials are to the school board, and really get involved. And I admittedly was not doing that, but guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get involved.
Beautiful. So now you also coach adults. So who are the people that you're coaching? What are you coaching them on?
Pretty much what we've been talking about, quite honestly. What's funny is my new niche, because of COVID, so many people want to become a coach. It's a blessing and a curse in a way. I usually don't like even calling myself a coach, just to be really transparent and honest with you, because, oh, you're a life coach, you're one of those. I'm like, okay, listen, I'm not somebody who just went through a 12-week course online and suddenly can give you life advice. No, I'm the guy that went to the School of Hard Knocks, graduated from the College of Adversity with a master's degree, and I'm here and I've coached thousands of people. You can't tell me anything I haven't heard, and I'm pretty certain I can get you from where you are to where you want to be. So either I'm teaching people how to be coaches, but the best part is I finally found my niche, Kimberly. I never knew this before. That was one of my struggles, because I love everybody and I want to help kids and old people and da da da. Now I'm helping people who are comfortably miserable, the people like me, the people that are in that job, that go and make that drive every day. Oh, it's good. Oh, I'm saving, and I'll save up 2 years for a vacation so I can get away from all this for a week, and then come back to it and do it for another 2 years. I'm helping those people, because what they're seeing, especially through COVID, and especially with organizations cutting people. I mean, I was at an organization for 26 years. Boom, no party hat, no nothing. See you later, goodbye. I'm like, and I could, yeah. So I think people are realizing they have to take responsibility for their own life, and doing that and being comfortably miserable is not a great spot on your headstone. And so I love helping people. I found out my demographic is women between the ages of 35 and 65, 80%, barely men. It's really kind of interesting. I mostly coach women, and I love it, because women are usually eager to learn, eager to be vulnerable and communicate what's going on. But that said, I've actually been now just been recruited to be a part of a men's group, because I am so vulnerable. I found this group of men on Clubhouse who are like me, so we're putting a group together to teach other men how to be vulnerable and have those open, honest communications and things like that. But yeah, I just take people from being comfortably miserable to completely unstoppable.
Yeah, and that's so important. Actually, today I was seeing patients, and I got into a conversation with one of my patients who's 27 years old, and he asked about the podcast. So I told him, and he said, and he's like an engineer, just drafting for buildings. And I told him the name of my podcast, Incredible Life Creator, and I told him what it was about, finding your happiness, fulfillment. And he said, when I go through my life seems just kind of dull. And he said, I was trying to think of the last time I was happy, and the last time I felt happy was 2 years ago. And I thought, oh my goodness, 27 years old, and you can't remember when you were last happy.
That's not uncommon, especially now. It's tragic.
So what is the key to feeling happy? Sometimes I don't even like to use the word happy. Have that joy inside, have that fulfillment, have that feel good feeling on a day.
That's an easy answer. Easy answer. Gratitude. 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 It blows my mind how many people are not grateful for the simple things in life. And I'm fortunate enough that people tell me the honest truth about stuff. I hear people, bitching and complaining about so many things. I'm like, did you get up this morning and go to a spot in your house and turn a silver lever and have hot water come out of the wall? Did hot water come out of the wall when you wanted it to? When you hit the coffee maker, did the coffee come out? When you started the car, did the car start? Did it move you 75 miles across Earth in an hour? Mm-hmm. Yeah, gratitude, because we're taught when you get this, then you can have that feeling of, once you complete that contest or get that A, then you can feel justified, and so we're always looking at the short-term gratifications instead of the long-term results. So the second component of that is gratitude, number one. Number two is to be in the moment. Be in the moment. And this is what I personally have had to learn. That's why I'm such a great teacher, is I was either pontificating about the past, Monday morning quarterback. What did I do? What could I have done better? Always strategic, always, calculating how do I get to the next level, doing that, or in the future. always like, okay, what's going to happen with this? I have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or there. I was never in the moment. Never. Even if somebody was talking to me, I'm ADD on crack. I could sit there and listen to you and do 10 other things. I'd be like, I was never in the moment. And so once I started realizing I was never in the moment, I was never really truly happy because I was always in emotions that were based on strategies and everything else. I wasn't just going, wow, I have a beautiful house. I have a big screen TV. Da, 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 da. And then it occurred to me, and I heard this said to somebody, they're like, if you can't be happy now with what you have, and you think that something else is going to make you happy or bring you that feeling, it's not. It's
Mhm.
not. It's about really realizing the value. And again, going back to that childlike state, you want to be happy? Go play, go have fun, go be curious. I have a 4-year-old son.
Mhm.
Play pirates. I mean, I go out and do, and I'm not, I wasn't comfortable. I should say, I wasn't comfortable doing that. I'm not a kid person. I was not a kid person. I am a kid person now, big time, because it taught me how to find my inner child. Because a therapist said to me one time, they said, Chris, when did you stop being a kid? And I said, interesting question. I like that. I'm going to use that. 7. And so we talked about that. I'm like, oh, and her directive to me was to go play more. I was like, what? I have stuff to do. I don't have time to play. But play is so massively important because we're all still little boys and girls inside. I can have a conversation with anybody and pretty much determine what type of kid they were based on their communication style within about 10, 15 minutes. So we need to play. We need to be in the moments. We need to have fun. We need to stop worrying about everything. 98% of all fears are never realized. I'm afraid of the dentist. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. So if I stay safe and don't do anything, then I don't have to be fearful, right? That's not living, that's existing. So again, that's what I teach people to do is change their perspectives about their past, present, and their future so that they can actually enjoy the moments, enjoy what they have, and have that sense of confidence that I don't have to worry about this or I mean, everybody was worrying about, oh, what's going to happen when this happens with the riots and everything else. I'm like, you know what? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Me worrying about it is not going to change anything. Me being in the moment and being present for my family or being present for my coaching clients or present for my shows, that's what's going to make the difference. Because at the end of the day, my legacy says that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what was right and what was fair. He will have risked risk for which that mattered and left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. So my personal value system is that as long as I'm alive, I'm going to be playing and having fun and helping people and growing. I'm not going to worry about the minutia and just enjoy life. So whenever my time is up, that anybody can look back and go, the last thing Chris said was like, live your life, and have fun and be in the moment. So yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey, but I love taking people through that because the greatest gift for me, and I'm sure you feel this the same way too, being a doctor, is when you do something or say something that gives somebody that glimmer of hope or gives them that opportunity to shift their perspective about what's ailing them and everything else. And they kind of see there's a possibility. That's something most people haven't seen in such a long time that it's like a drug for me. So yeah, being in the moment and being childlike is super, super important, and having gratitude again.
Thanks. So I wanted to ask you about um, how you met your wife and how that works in your life with what you're doing, and now you're a dad.
That's a great question. You're going to laugh at this one. It's a funny story. I was elected to be the vice chair or the co-chair. I always forget the term. I was a vice chair, then I was a co-chair for a very stimulating organization called the Postal Customer Council. So I was in the mailing industry a little bit, part of my corporate life. And so I would go to these meetings to learn about the mailing industry because I had no idea about it. I got promoted and they said, here, figure it out. And I went, I'll figure it out. So by being who I am, I wound up getting on the board, and then they elected me the co-chair, which is crazy because I was not like anybody else. I was not like the postal people. I was not like the business people. And so people were really excited, like, man, we just need some new energy in here. I'm like, I'm not like a postal person. So they elected me, and I was walking around, I was meeting people and greeting people. And these two, I remember they were two older ladies, and they were fun people. And they said, so Christopher, what are you going to do to spice up the PCC meetings? And I just turned around. I said, I don't know. I'm thinking naked strip musical chairs. Are you guys in? And they just kind of looked at me like this. And my wife turned around at the time. She turned around. She goes, I'll play. And I looked at her. I'm like, how you doing? And so it was like, just like this joking thing, like, oh, you're going to entertain this sarcasm or something like that. I said, okay, I'll play with you. And so then we got to talking or whatnot. And she was really cool. And then I knew her boss. Her boss was actually my sales rep. And I just started talking about her. And so she goes back to her office and says, ooh, somebody's got a crush on you, Barbara. And so we started emailing and then went on a couple of dates. And then after 5 years, I got the, I'm going to put a ring on his finger. And I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? And I had dated a lot and I'd been married before. And I was like, you know what? out of all the people I've dated, you accept me for who I am. You know me to be the zany, witty, sarcastic, fun guy who loves people, and just all the right reasons. So we got married in Jamaica, had a great time. And one of the deal breakers for our relationship early on was the fact that she really wanted kids, and she's 10 years younger than me. And I really didn't want kids. I was like, not a kid person. I'm success oriented. I want to do this. I saw my friends, what they were going through. I'm like, no, thanks. Not my thing.
Mhm.
And so we had broken up for a period of time, but we got back together, and I was like, all right, all right, all right. And people always said, Chris, you would be an amazing dad. And I always scared the crap out of me based on my history and my mom's history. And she told me not to have kids and all this crazy stuff. So I said, okay, when I'm 40 and you're 30, we'll have a kid. Because at that point, I think I was 32. And
Mhm.
I thought, okay, that's 8 years. We'll figure it out by then. Boom, it happened. I was like, okay, let's start conceiving. We were married and everything. And it didn't happen. And I thought, oh my God, it's going to happen right away. My life's going to be over and this is going to be hell. That was my perspective. That was my expectation. It was a little tainted. But then nothing happened. And then nothing happened and nothing happened and nothing happened. And then also, no, let's go to the fertility clinic. And I thought it was her. I thought, I'm good. Strong bull. No problem. Both of us had fertility issues. Ooh, got to look inside. Got to put that mirror up to us. So we think it's everybody else, not us. So we thought about it. And because of my mentoring with kids, we went the adoption route. So we listed with a couple of different adoption agencies over a period of 3 years, I think. I'm not very good with dates because it all blends together. And I was almost 48, I think, at the time. My son's 4. I'm going to be 52. So I think it was 48. And I started thinking, my God, I have major back issues. I had surgery a couple of years ago. And I was like, I don't want to be that dad that can't be with his kid and have fun and da 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 da. So I was like, okay, if we don't have a kid by 50, then I'm checking out. Like, I'm not going to do this game. And I was out camping, and my wife calls me and she goes, oh my God. She goes, I just got a call from the adoption agency. And I'm like, oh, what did they say? And she goes, oh my God, we got picked. I'm like, huh? And I already studied adoptions on YouTube for like crazy. I'd studied forums and everything. I'm like, a lot of adoptions fail at the last second because the mother decides to keep the baby. That's what happened with me. My mom was going to put me up for adoption. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And she goes, oh, here's the best part. Here's the best part. Are you ready for this, Dr. Kimberly? She's due in 10 days. I went from like, I'm almost out of this thing. I'm not going to do it. So I'm what? Hello? I'm camping, right? She's in Chicago. She's coming back from a business trip. I'm like, hello? She goes, oh my God. And then they're up in Sacramento. Da, 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 da. I'll tell you more about it when I get there. So she would always come back when I'm on my camping trip. She would come out and join me for the weekend. I was sitting there. I was like, reaching the ice chest. It was 2:00 in the afternoon. I cracked a beer and I was like, I'm going to be a what, when? And I was like, what? And the God's honest truth, Kimberly, it's been such an amazing experience. It has taught me so much. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been brilliant. I love my son to death. Yeah, it's just truly incredible. And we're a happy family, and we're still in touch with the birth parents. And yeah, it's just turned out to be a beautiful thing.
That is wonderful. Well, just so people can actually connect with you, where are the places they can connect with you? A website, a show? Kind of go over the list of where they can find you.
No, thank you. Thank you. No, this has been super awesome. The best place to get a hold of me is ChristopherRausch.com, RAUSCH, ChristopherRausch.com. If you forget that, if you type in No Excuses Coach, you'll always find me. My website's currently being redesigned, but there are all the social media links there, my YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff. Yeah, we'd love to connect with all you guys. And currently what I'm doing for people when I'm on their show is just my way of giving back to the host and giving back to the viewers. If any of you guys really want to have an extended conversation with me, by all means, reach out. I would be happy to give you a complimentary session, a strategy session, wherever you're at. It's no sales. It's nothing. It's just you tell me what you want to focus on for that hour, and we focus on it. And I send you on your way with some strategy tips too. That's my way of paying it forward and making the world a better place, because I make money and I do coaching and it's all great. But I still have that component where I want to make sure that I'm doing my part to lift everybody else up. So that's my gift to you and your viewers. And yeah, I just appreciate you making the time to have me on, and the great questions.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being on today. And I have one last question.
Sure.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice, beyond what I've said today, my best advice, I want to take that seriously. My best advice. I'm going to go back to the quote that I was told. You're only limited by the parameters of your own mind. Whatever you've been through up until this point, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is what it is, right? It is the fact. You've been through that. So we have two choices. We can choose to say, it happened to me, and be a victim. We can choose to be a victim. My sister was a victim, is still probably a victim. I don't talk to her. And we could choose that. We could choose to associate ourselves with other victims. And we could choose to watch things on TV or on the internet that supports the victim mindset and that the world is a terrible place. Or we can choose to say, no, no more. I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. My life is my life. And I wish and I choose to be self-directed in my journey. That accumulation of wealth and prizes and possessions and money and all this other stuff does not give me back my time. And I have seen people, millions of dollars, billions of dollars, super successful, millions of fans, cancer, boom. What are they doing? They're spending all their time and all their money flying all over the place to try to fix what is happening to them based on stress, based on their lifestyle, based on a lot of different contributing factors, of course, as you know. And then they wind up dead, and it's crazy to me that people would do that. So it really ultimately starts with honoring yourself. Do you love yourself? Yes or no? If you say no, then you need help. You need to get that help. You need to get through that, because you have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to figure out what your why is in life. So for me, when I wrote my legacy, or when I wrote my eulogy, that really gave me clarity into who I want to be and who I want to become. So I'll leave you with this. When I wake up in the morning after knowing my eulogy, in every step that I take, and it's not perfect, I'm not a perfect person by any means, please don't get that impression, but in those situations where I think about I'm doing something potentially stupid or harmful or whatever it might be, ask myself this question: is this getting me closer to or further from my stated goal, which my vision is my legacy, that I will leave the earth a better place for what it is that I do, that I'm going to be around for my son when he has kids. So that's longevity, that's health. If I'm going to do something that jeopardizes that, and I'm congruent in my thoughts and I keep my promises to myself, then I will fulfill that legacy no matter what. And it's not easy, but it's always worth it. So that's my overall life advice at this point.
Thank you. We will end with that. And we'll talk to you again soon, Christopher.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.